Good morning, everyone. Thanks for your consideration, and my apologies for not being able to join you live. I will present a paper entitled Dramaturgie des Laufens, Samuel Beckett's Performative Writing, Hunting German Gothic Sculptor. This presentation is part of a broad postgraduate research whose title is Samuel Beckett in Germany, Language and Technologies. This research combines critical literary analysis, archived material, and a phenomenological approach towards the understanding of Beckett's travel experience in Germany. Dramaturgie des Laufens is an oral expression by Gaby Hartl, a German cultural journalist, during a radio interview recorded in a German radio program called Deutschlandradio Berlin, broadcasted on 3rd September 2000 and archived at the University of Reading, England. In that radio interview, a German journalist interviewed Professor James Knowlson, Walter Asmus, by that time the organizer of the Beckett Festival Berlin in the same year, 2000, Erika Tophoven, and Gaby Hartl, among others, on the topic of Beckett's German trip. Moreover, Gaby Hartl is the German translator of the German diaries edited by Mark Nixon and Oliver Lübrich, forthcoming next year. In an interlinguistic translation from German to English, Dramaturgie des Laufens means dramaturgy of walking, and dramaturgia de la caminata in my native Argentinian Spanish. As you all know, Samuel Beckett had a particular taste for walking, and he expressed this in his literary work, narrative, drama, poetry, and in his personal experience. Let us briefly mention the anecdotes with his father in the mountains of Dublin, the videos and pictures walking in the Quartier Latin, where he lived after the Second World War, and especially for this occasion, the walking Bildungsreise that he made in the Nazi Germany between October 1936 and April 1937. In terms of travel technologies, this Bildungsreise is done first in the ocean liner SS George Washington, a luxury steamboat traveling from Cobb to Hamburg on 28th September with a stop in Le Havre, and later from 2nd October, when Beckett finally reached Hamburg, the train and the body are the main locomotive media. This Bildungsreise is an ästhetische Bildungsreise, an education trip based on the observation of arts, paintings, architecture, and sculpture. It also follows the linguistic, philosophical, and literary preparation or training that Beckett made some months before the beginning of the trip. The author had written to Thomas McGreevy, and I quote, "I'm reading German and learning a little that way. Always, when it's coming up to Christmas, I get the German fever for the Tannenbaumchen, little fire trees, and Bierreisen, beer trips through the snow." End of quote, quoted by Nixon in 2011. Bierreisen, beer trips, could be considered an element of an aesthetical category, as gastronomy will be a huge part of Beckett's cultural approach to German culture. Like other Romantic authors, for example, Wordsworth in The Prelude or Goethe's Faustus, traveling signs the beginning of a transformation process. A confused subjectivity looks for answers by experiencing their own presence and role in the world. The Bildungsreise is considered, and I quote, als ästhetischer Modus der reflexiven Erfahrung europäischer Differenzhaftigkeit, which means that it's considered an aesthetical mode of the reflexive experience of the European differentiation. Sorry, this was a kind of a live translation. Thus, the author of this quote is Leopold Klepacki. Thus, Samuel Beckett is a representative of an European identity. He will try to translate into verbal language all visual and sensorial experiences while traveling in Germany, from cook to singing, museums and streets. This kind of writing is a performative one, which possesses the rough style of notes, some brief, some longer, that finally constitute a diary called German diaries. The idea of ruins, constantly present in literature during the long 19th century, returns 1 century after through the Gothic figures of German sculpture. I am interested in connecting these figures with Beckett's impressions during the trip, but also on their reappearance in Beckett's TV plays. For this presentation today, I will just focus on the German city of Regensburg. And I must mention that during this year, 2023, I conducted a kind of experience called Beckett's Literary Tours in Germany, visiting cities like Munich, Nuremberg, Berlin, and Hamburg. But, well, this is not completely finished, of course, and it's still part of my current research, figuring out which visions or which Gefühl Beckett had during his own German trip. So Samuel Beckett reached Regensburg after visiting the city of Nuremberg on 2nd March 1937. On 3rd March 1937, he visited the Regensburger Dom, St. Peter, and on 4th March 1937, after buying a selection of Trakhl's poetry and Richard Wiebel's study of the northern door of the Regensburger Cathedral, he went back to this door called Schottentor in St. Jacob's Church. I will show you some photographs of Gothic sculpture at Regensburger Dom, St. Peter. I will share my screen now in order to be able to offer you these images. So this is the first image that I saw, or it's a picture that I took in the Regensburger Dom. No copyright dangers because I took this picture. So you can see a kind of angel which is smiling as well. Another interesting picture that I want to show you is a character with this kind of cone as a hat and this kind of clothes, reading a book, and with a kind of modest expression. And finally, I want to show you a picture that I took from Wikipedia. In this case, it's not my own picture, of the Schottentor at St. Jacob's. The other pictures are from St. Peter's Church, and this is St. Jacob's. So I will stop sharing now. Please keep in mind these images because I will mention some of the ideas. You remember the first picture, the angel? Well, about this image, Beckett wrote on 3rd April 1937, exactly when he visited this church, and I quote, "Superb, angel with delighted look of an express messenger from Irish Hospitals Trust," end of quote. So we have the idea of an angel and also a messenger, and also the idea of hospitals. So I cannot tell you exactly if this messenger is the one that we are going to find in Godot, but probably. About the second one, the figure of a guy with a cone as a hat, I still couldn't find any reference because I am in the work in progress of my research, but it shows how the figure with impressively similar clothes and presence will reappear in plays like But the Clouds, a TV play, or with some minimal differences in plays like Quad, the TV version of the theatrical Quadrat. Following Müller-Freienfeld's suggestion of monochromatic style, all Beckett's TV plays for the Süddeutscher Rundfunk are black and white. Müller-Freienfeld was the director of the section der Autor als Regisseur, and he was the person in charge of offering Beckett all technological tools for doing whatever he wanted to do at the Süddeutscher Rundfunk. About the third picture, the Schottentor, the architectural levels and layers could also relate to Beckett's intermediate environments and TV stages, where depth can be represented by zooming, by holes, and several passages. I argue that Beckett's focus on German Gothic sculpture during his German trip constitutes a romantic procedure of reviving the ruins of a fruitful and productive past period in the context of the Nazi Germany. The last one, as William Davis says, characterized by violence, propaganda, and censorship. This romantic procedure of reviving the ruins can be read as a decolonial way of dealing with European empires, among which the Third Reich can be included. Beckett was an Irish author, nor English nor French, and Ireland was, by that time, a post-colonial country, even when censorship had touched Beckett's literature during De Valera's government. To my perspective, these decolonial Gothic figures return in Beckett's TV plays of the 60s, 70s, and 80s to position a second post-war Germany, the same that Beckett was trying to revive as a youth in the 30s, before the explosion of the Second World War and the terror of the Holocaust. Therefore, it is also very significant that some Gothic figures in Beckett's TV plays walk, whereas some other ones, the majority, are petrified. And I am using these metaphors on purpose. In Quad, they walk from one point to the other, intercalating positions, as creating a Dramaturgie des Laufens in a most literal way, for example. In But the Clouds, already mentioned, the characters enter and quit the scene, which is a light spot. And we have this character dressed very similar to this figure that I described. In Ghost Trio, the figures make short steps, but also spend time on the bed. Same as Hey Joe, whose protagonist doesn't move at all. And in Nacht und Träume, they just rest or sleep. Hands appear and disappear through the curtains without any other movement, which would be intensified in What Where, showing only faces. So for the TV plays, I want to focus in this idea of walking and petrification. Thus, to conclude, Beckett's Romanticism, Antique German Gothic sculpture, is a decolonial one. It proposes a procedure to signify that constructs a counter-hero following Patrick Bixby ideas. And this counter-hero is constantly failing and constantly canceling the magnificence of high literature towards a meaner literature, or a literature of the margins, of the borders. Once more, this TV revival of German Gothic sculpture seems to be a modern translation of Beckett's first attempts to linguistically describe visual arts during his German trip, now using different technologies and the media of the time. Thank you very much.